Hey zookeepers, what's up and welcome back to the Feenstra Zoo. Thank you for spending your very valuable time here with me. I do very much appreciate it. Before we jump into the fun stuff, I just want to take a second to say go check out the spectacular sponsors of the show. The Viking Goods Company is an incredible clothing company, super comfy clothes with amazing designs and graphics, definitely worth your time to go take a look. Also, for the best way to have breakfast on the go, the Crunch Cup is fantastic. It's a cereal cup with separate spots for your milk and cereal, and they mix together as you pour it into your mouth, making sure you have like the most delicious, crunchy bite of cereal every time you take a bite. Or if you don't want stuff, but you still want to support the zoo, a one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com is always appreciated. But remember, you don't have to spend money to help out the zoo. Just hit the share button, spread the show to your friends, family, any social media, wherever you want to. And of course, word of mouth is always fantastic. But enough of the boring stuff, let's jump into today's episode. What is eating you? Do you ever feel like no matter how productive you are during the day, no matter what you accomplish, there just aren't enough hours in the day? There's just never enough time to get this to-do list done. Do you ever find yourself looking or wishing for just a few extra hours? On the flip side, do you also at the same time feel totally strung out and exhausted by the end of day Friday? If you answered yes to any or all of this, good news, you're not alone. I am also desperate for more time during the week, and also frequently just done by the end of day Friday. Maybe that's not good news. I don't know. Anyway, can we just play the what if game for a minute? Of course we can. This is my podcast. I make the rules. Okay. So what if we had more time during the day? Let's say there was 30 hours a day instead of 24. What would we do with that extra 6 hours? If I had that time, I would like to think that I would fill it with good or even great things. Read more books, spend more time with my family, learn new skills, maybe hiking, more fishing. Man, I've barely scratched the surface, and I think I'm already past my extra hours for the day. Quite possibly going to be far more exhausted on Friday even. Now, I'm certain that the design of the 7-day week of 24 hours is the perfect design. But if extra hours aren't the solution, what can we do to escape that inevitable burnout by overwhelmingly busy lives? I truly believe the first step in solving any problem is finding the root issue and admitting it. If you have a cut, yes, you put a Band-Aid on it, but you look for what you cut yourself on. Is it a nail sticking out from the board or whatever, and solve that problem first. Otherwise, you're inevitably going to cut yourself again. So if our lives are overloaded, we can't just drop our whole schedule and think it's going to solve the problem, because all we're going to do is fill our schedule back up with new and potentially more things. I think the first thing we need to do is accept that we have limitations placed on us. The simple reality is like we only have 24 hours in this day, and we have to eat and sleep and work, likely commute to and from said work, and within that time frame. So if we figure, rough numbers, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 2 hours for eating, an hour for commuting, what do we have left? Like 5 hours left to fill, at least during, work days, Monday to Friday, whatever your schedule is. I mean, time by far is not the only limitation we face, but it is the one that I want to focus on today. Others would be things like the families we came from, our socioeconomic backgrounds, our current financial states, if we're single or married, if we have children, if we don't. There's many more. Anyway, So if we only have a few hours left in our day, let's frame this. How can we tell if we're overloaded? For starters, we become fatigued. Working an 8-hour shift feels more like an 80-hour day. Literally having to drag ourselves out of bed in the morning. We have to live with this weight on our shoulders that seems just unbearable. Emotionally, we've become exhausted, becoming overly cynical towards everyone and everything. Our tempers become short and hyper-aggressive at the smallest things. We just, on a hair's breadth, we're going to go off. Stress for us is at an all-time high. And no matter how much we get done, we feel completely useless. Things like depression become a razor's edge reality. What's ironic is that the same thing happens when we're just too stagnant. This all culminating in just like complete lethargy. Again, depression just becomes a real possibility. So, we must intentionally design our schedules with great purpose. Being overwhelmed and overloaded is way too easy. We collect hobbies and activities and programs like they're vintage Disney pins. It's so easy and almost mindless at first. And then it's completely harmless, but then all of a sudden we have a countless number of things to do, and we have 5 calendars at our table trying to balance our to-dos and our obligations. Guys, it's way too much. So I'm going to get into the practical applications here nice and early, because I think that this is kind of a big deal in our day and age. And I know for myself, it's way too easy to collect these activities and then have nothing left. So, let's define this. What is it that we really want to achieve here? So it's in my experience and in my opinion that we do need to have something in our schedules to look forward to on hopefully a weekly basis. But also we need to leave room in our schedules to be interrupted. And in this household, we call that space margin. Now, on top of that, we need to schedule our downtime into our weeks. A rest day, a full Sabbath would be ideal. That's a different episode, and depending on your current season of life, may be unattainable. But I think it's really important to be in there. Like I said, we need to be intentional, but we also need to be practical. So let's start this off. Let's look at a schedule. You need to have some big important things scheduled. For me, this looks like work, of course, a loose bedtime, a daily time with Shalane to check in, proper date nights, although they're less frequent in this stage of life than we would like. But still, we still need to put them in our schedule. And of course, we need to schedule our meals in there. Okay. But there's one thing that we all continuously forget to put in our schedule: rest. And if you're anything like me, and I'm willing to bet that you are, if it's not in your weekly plan, it's just not going to happen. Rest is necessary, no matter if you're introvert or extrovert, no matter your Enneagram number or your Myers-Briggs type or whatever, you need recharge time. And I would even say that we need to bring back the Sabbath rest, like I just said. I have an entire episode on that, but quickly, let me just put this in here because I do think it's so important. So the Sabbath is a 24-hour chunk of time where you and your family intentionally you put this in your schedule so there's no work. And it's way more than just a day off. It's a pre-planned time to be a family and intentionally be attentive to each other and reestablish your connection to God. I truly believe this needs to be in everyone's weekly schedule. It's a check-in time, making sure your family is good, making sure that you understand what's going on in their lives as well. But you can make it something to look forward to every week. There's a practice called pleasure stacking where you basically take all of your family's favorite things, food, board games, stories, nap time, snacks, whatever it is, and you stack them on this day and you do it together. You take out technology, no TV, no scrolling phones, no iPad, whatever. Take out technology, lock it in a closet if you have to, and you take that time as a family to come together and just reform your bonds every week. Something that Shalene and I have been doing for years, and I know I've said it on this podcast before, but like creating those ties that bind between you and your spouse, you can do that with your kids as well. And as a whole family unit, you become inseparable and you become so ingrained in each other's lives that you're not just doing this life by accident. But the Sabbath will do this for you as a family unit, as well as tie you to God. And refocuses and reestablishes your views so that your family priority line is proper. But, sorry, this is getting too much of a tangent here. Let me refocus here. Back to our schedule. So, yes, put the Sabbath in. And you guys may be listening and still thinking, well, this is all well and good, but how the heck do I actually make a schedule? I suggest as physically and visually as possible. Draw out a calendar and draw out the hours of each day, or get a day planner and start by making your normal week and your ideal week. So, if you want a really fun visual experience before you do this, over the next 7 days, log everything you do, hour by hour, minute by minute if you have to, and keep a journal. Log your phone time, your TV time, your reading time, anytime you're eating, sleeping, bathing, hobbies, literally everything. Jot down a minute by minute log, and at the end of the 7 days, you're going to have a very visual and very tangible, what does my week look like? It's going to do a couple things for you. One, it's going to show you just where you stack your priorities. Where do you spend the most time? What do you spend the most time doing? So on and so forth. Okay. In doing so, it's going to show you places where you can, limit things like, TV and phone usage, whatever. It's going to show you where you can cut things completely out of your schedule. It's going to show you where you can, trim the fat. Okay. After that, draw out your ideal week. Make a 7-day block, hour by hour, however detailed you want to make it. But set it up so it's like, okay, my alarm goes off this time every morning. This is when I get up. I'm going to go get coffee. I'm going to make breakfast, prep my lunch for the day, whatever it is. But be detailed in it and set up your ideal days, your ideal week. And then try and live that week for the next week. Start with your non-negotiables, putting this into your calendar. Okay. Work, sleep, eat. Hard bedtimes or loose bedtimes, dinner times, church, Sabbath, small group, gym, whatever. Put that into your schedule as your non-negotiables. And then add your hobbies in. Where can this realistically fit while still giving me margin in my day? And you're probably going to have to cut something out. Maybe you don't need to be involved in 6 different sports leagues this season. Maybe you only do 2. Maybe whatever that has to look like for you. Okay? Burnout and depression are real threats. It's so easy to slip back into these habits of just saying yes to everything. But maybe that's not right now. Maybe you're in a season of no, where you just have to say no to many, many things until you get your life figured back out. And then it's not about doing this for a season and going back into it, but this is about long-term success in your life. I don't want you to be burnt out and strung out. I don't want you to be white-knuckling it through life, because it's not healthy and it's not sustainable. The space we intentionally create, like I said, I like to refer to it as margin. But better defined, this is the space between your load and your limit. You don't want to be constantly at the absolute limits of your time and of your schedule, because like I said, then you become irritable, you become stressed out, your temper starts to flare. You need to make this space so you have some room to breathe. That way, if something comes up, a friend really needs coffee, needs someone to talk to, needs a shoulder to cry on, you rub shoulders with someone from the past and you want to get dinner with them, you want to catch up. You've made a new friend and you want to pour some time into this budding friendship to get to know this person more. Look at it this way. So even Jesus made margin. Some of the best stories through the Gospels are Jesus being interrupted by people who needed his attention in the moment. Okay. It's the same for us. We need to live the same principles as this man lived. So we leave margin in our schedules to be interrupted by ourselves. Maybe I need a down day. By friends, by family, by our kids, especially our kids. And that's why Shalane and I have the capability of this open door policy in our home. We always have extra food at our table. There's always coffee ready and ready to be shared. It's necessary to function, to keep our stress low, to keep our sanity, the ability to not be completely burned out at the end of the week. Sometimes we still get caught up. Of course we do. And we can't continue functioning at the 90 miles an hour that we've been doing it. And like I said, then we hit back to this season of saying no to things. And this goes in cycles that we say yes, we get involved, we're members of community, we have an open door, and we hit our limit. And then we have to check ourselves and be like, okay, breathe. This week I need to say no, I need some space for me. And these things, they ebb and they flow, and that's good, and they should. I want you to say yes to lots of things. There's so much life to experience. But we need to accept the limitation of 24 hours, which, like we learned, is more like 5 hours of our real time. But after my long ramble, guys, I come back to my first question. What's eating you? Or rather, how is your time being eaten up? How is your schedule looking these days? And I hope It's about to get better. But that is where I'm going to leave you guys. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you've only got a couple hours to spare. But that's it for me this week, guys. Remember, go check out the sponsors. Remember, helping the sponsors, checking out the sponsors does support the show, but you don't need to spend money. You can just, tell a friend about the zoo. Hopefully they like it too. Thank you. I love you guys, and God bless.